Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Scrap Mechanic. In this video we're going to be creating a tank with a gun tank. And I just cannot wait to get going here. So I've proofed the two ideas that I wanted to join together and I think this thing is going to work. But we're going to talk about these two ideas that I've had first of all before we start building anything. And I say that, I've already built a few things, you know what I'm on about. I'm on about making the tank, which is going to be this thing right here. So, in order to create a tank, we would of course need some wheels with like chains around them. I'm sure that has a proper name, but I don't know what it is. If you haven't seen a tank before, go look up a tank. I'm assuming most of you have. So anyway, we can't do that in Scrap Mechanic. I mean, you probably could. There'd be a way to connect them with bearings, but I'm not particularly interested in that. I just wanted something that felt like a tank. So what we're probably going to do is build like a frame over the top of these wheels, so they're sort of enclosed a little bit. We'll armor it up like a tank is, but of course we want it to drive like a tank. So at the moment when we sit in this seat, we can move forward at a very slow speed. Now I was thinking, how do tanks steer in real life? And the answer is, I don't know, and I didn't do any research because I came up with my own idea on how I'd make them steer. And unfortunately, it doesn't work when we're sitting in the seat. So I'm going to press 1 and 2, and you can see that those buttons behind me are turning on and off, and nothing's happening. And this is because I believe when we're sitting in the seat, we're engaging with the bearings that are hooked up to these wheels in some way, because when we're not sitting in the seat and we press this button over here, you'll see that the tank starts to turn. When we hit the other one, we start turning a little bit faster, which makes me realise that I've designed this so it can only turn in one direction, right? What happens if I turn that one? Okay, we might have to go back to the drawing board a little bit here, because it needs to be able to turn in two directions. So anyway, let me explain what's happening here. Obviously, we've got a double bearing setup. We might need to make that a triple one. And when we're using the seat over here, we're activating the engines. We can control the wheels and go forward, and that's because the other ones are controlled by controllers, so they will like sit still. Now, when we activate the controller, what we're doing is we're running them on a loop and we're turning them forward in increments of 15. If we turn that up to 30, we should, in theory, turn a little bit faster. So turn that on. Yes, definitely turning a little bit faster. But, of course, we're only going in one direction, so we sort of need to set that up twice to move in either direction. And that's the way that I want to make the... Wait, why are you still going? You've been turned off. That doesn't make much sense. I can't explain that. There we go. Okay, now it decided to stop. Fair enough. I'll figure out why it did that. Yeah, so if we double this up, or triple it even, then we can have two sets of bearings that are controlled by controllers to move left and right. And then when we sit in this chair, we can go forward. But of course, we also need to figure out how to get it to work so we can do that all at the same time. Because when I press 1 and 2 at the moment, nothing happens with steering. So I'll suss that out, and then that'll be the controls for the tank. We'll be able to creep steadily forward like a tank and turn to left and right, possibly the way a tank does, I don't know. And then over here what we have is the gun, and this is a proof of concept. This is something that I saw on the Reddit, the Scrap Mechanic Reddit. Thought it was extremely cool, and I couldn't wait for an excuse to try it out, and now we've got one. So we're going to drag back what will be our bullet, our missile, or whatever you want to call it, and we'll drop it down like so. And then we're going to shoot it out by pressing this button. Let's turn quickly. Bam! Off it goes. That looks amazing. It went quite far, as you could see, and I think that's an awesome way to make a gun in this game right here. So, I do want to point out a couple of things, though. If you have a block below, it can be a little bit finicky when it tries to leave. So, let's plot that down right there. Drop it onto that bit. Press the button, and that time it was absolutely fine. Interesting. Okay, you see I've done some testing and it's not always consistent. It seems to be pretty good when you don't have a block below. If you have a block below or a block below and above, it can not be as good. So let's try it like this, and then let's put blocks above and see how it fares this time. Aha, there you go. That time it got stuck, which is not what we want. We don't want a bullet or whatever they call it on a tank that, you know, just gets stuck as it comes out of the turret. That's another thing, actually. It's alright having the shooting mechanism here, but how does it work for a turret? Because we're obviously want to have... Oh, let's try and click on the right blocks. We'll want to have something that it... Oh, we're at that crazy height where it freaks out. We have to crouch. We'll want to have a turret, and this is going to be the size of our turret, I guess. Let's see if we can get away with shooting it like that, because we want the turret to stick out a little bit. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to play around with different block types. Maybe if this causes a problem, we'll use some pipes on the bottom that are on bearings, so these things can kind of slide across, if you can picture that in your mind. Anyway, let's drop that down, so we've got ourselves another projectile, and it sent me flying off of it because I was standing on the wheels, and it looked like, yes, it sent this thing out flying as well. Now I'd like to do that one more time so we could actually see that in action, but this looks like a really good idea. Another thing we want to do is put this on a bearing as well, somewhere down here, so we can tilt it from side to side and up and down a little bit. All of that is going to be really fun to build. Anyway, let's try it one more time. I'm not going to stand on the wheels this time. I'm going to, though, make myself a little prop to stand up on top of. Hop, up we go. Press the button. And that time it wasn't so successful, is it? So, definitely this thing needs some work if we're going to make this turret part of the gun look good. But there you go. There's my proof of concepts. Let's start off with the tank and the steering, see if I can get this thing to work. So the tank is starting to look pretty tanky, I think. I like the way this has been done on the side here with these blocks. They look very armoured. I did just accidentally place one. Let's remove that. And the driving's all sort of been set up. So what I should do is actually just put this back on the lift. I literally just took it off. If we have a look underneath, you can now see that I modified the design underneath here a little bit, so we've got room for extra bearings, and that looks really cool. I always like how things look when they're wired up in this game. Let's also remove that right there. And you'll notice this isn't a normal driving seat, and that's because I've removed the option to go backwards, believe it or not. So we can only go forwards by pressing 1, and then if we want to turn to the side... I had not tested that since I added the armour on, which is interesting that it's interrupting and getting in the way of that, because it worked fine a moment ago. That's kind of worrying. Okay, and I also made it turn a lot faster by turning these all the way up to 90. I mean, I think we started out with like 30 or 15. Yikes. So I think what happens is when it starts to turn between the few different bearings there, it's probably going to sort of move the wheel, and it's going to end up nudging into some of these blocks. Now, which ones it's nudging into, I'm not sure. What we'll do is a little visual observation. There we go. Hey, did it just... No, it didn't start doing it. Okay, so it kind of looks like they're going closer to the front there, although there's an equal sort of gap at the back. Anything different on this side? Yikes, I think it's going to be a case of trial and error. I'm hoping it's just the front and the back that we can do away with, so that's not really going to help either. I might have to... Oh, I'm going to end up disconnecting the whole thing here if I'm not careful. So let's go add a few blocks like this. So now the structure is connected there to that side bit. And let's break away these right here. And, you know, it's just one bit so far, so that's not really telling us too much. Okay, I'll do some testing. I'll see if I can get it to work. I'm hoping that maybe it's just the front so that we can leave all of this on. But if it's the top as well, then it's kind of like back to square one, which is a bit annoying. But there you go. Okay, I've rebuilt this thing several times. I've tried so many different things to get this to work, and I kind of feel like maybe the tank design doesn't really work with wheels. Now obviously we can make all of these wheels steer to the side, but that wouldn't really be with the spirit of the tank. And so I think I'm going to go ahead and just build this thing so basically it goes forwards and backwards. Now what I found was it didn't really matter how you set up the wheels on the side here, it was about weight. The more that you added, it got too heavy for our turning system with the bearings to work. So I tried a few different things. One of those was actually adding steering into this thing with the wheels here. That makes so little difference, and of course if you put them on the front and back ones, they're going to go straight into the side of the tank. I guess we could make that a little bit bigger, but maybe that's what I'll do, but it doesn't really feel like the spirit of what we're trying to do here, recreating a tank. So I came up with this other idea, which was to have two sets of engines on these other bearings to spin in different directions. So when we power the ones at the back, we're simply going forward or backwards because it's controlled by this thing. Then when we control a specific engine, it's only going to steer them on either side, but in opposite directions, so it turns to the side. And look what happens. The wheels freak out, and it technically turns us, but in the strangest of ways. And now I've pressed the other button, we're turning back the other direction. So I'm not really happy with that. And at this point, I think it's actually probably quite likely we're going to extend the frame out a little bit further so we can have steering wheels on the front as well. And what I did here was just change the bearings underneath. So now you can see we've got a bearing there to steer and it comes out a little bit. So we'll give that a try. We'll see how it turns. And if that fails, I'm probably just going to go back to what we had originally and forget about turning on this thing. So I really do just want to get it looking like a tank and then build this gun on the top of it. So I just had a prototype put together for the turret up here and it didn't work, so I started to take it apart and then I realised I should have recorded it and shown you this in the process. So what we're going to go with is these things right here. They actually work really, really well, but I wanted to have a turret coming off the front of it. And I think the only way we're going to make that work is if the turret itself is a little bit lower down, which is actually what like some of these tank pictures I've been looking at look like. You don't tend to have something so big and raised up on top. It's usually a lot lower down and the turret is going to come straight off of like the top of the tank bit right here. And we've got a little window at the front for the driver to have a look through. And this is really cool actually. When you go inside here and you sit in the driver's seat, you sort of see the inside of the tank view, and you have to put it up in a particular angle like this. Oh, it seems to be a little bit more finicky than it was before, and that's the only way you're going to be able to see it externally. But then when you get out of the seat, you're on top of it, and you've got to press crouch, and it pops you up above, which is really cool. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is disconnect all of this. I built it incorrectly. I now want to build it lower down. I don't think we should have this little area for the player to stand on. I think we should stick to that tank look and just make it so that there is a turret up here and some controls. So we're going to disassemble some of this. Now this platform right here can be steered left and right, and I think I'm just going to hook that up to the driver's seat, so when you steer left, you aim left, something along those lines. How would that work with a regular bearing anyway? Can we even see? Of course we can if we angle it right. And we got to get rid of the lift, of course. Of course we have. Okay, let's go. Oh, I accidentally opened chat. Let's remove that right there. Pop into the driver's seat, and now that the lift's gone, the view is much better. I like that a lot. Yeah, so we can go forwards. Oh wow, it's so much slower now that it's heavier, and we can steer. The steering was really good last time I checked, but now that I've added all these extra blocks, it's a lot slower. But there you go. There's our aiming right there as well. That's actually really cool. I like that a lot. Let's hop out of here. So I made a few mistakes. Or actually no, that was the one mistake that I did make. So I could technically keep this bit right here sort of similar. I'll still rebuild it. Anyway, we've got our double bearings so that we can tilt it down and up. And what we'll probably do is hook that up to the controls on the driver's seat. And then these things will be hooked up to engines controlled by a switch down there as well. So you'd need like a second player to load up the shot, or you could load it yourself beforehand. That's something we've definitely got to do. But anyway, I'm going to rebuild this thing. Our aim is to keep the turret nice and low down and just to make it all a little bit smaller. So if you're wondering why I made this too wide, it's because the tank is an even amount of blocks wide. And here's the unfortunate thing. That happens. It gets caught in this bit here. Basically, I think you can't have any blocks nearby it at the front when it tries to shoot out. Speaking of which, what about these ones? I haven't tried it without those yet, so let's do that one more time. And let's hope it shoots off. Yeah, this isn't really helping at all. Any blocks in its way that it can collide with isn't very good. I've also got a feeling this might not be as effective as the wheels that we had over there. And at this point, I think we've got the proof of concept down. I've shown that you can build this, and now it's probably hours of trial and error and tweaking, and I've done a ton of that already. You're probably wondering why there's a seat on the side there. It's because I've closed in the roof of all of this, and we get stuck inside basically. So, yeah, we know we can steer left to right. Now that one will whack into the seat. Let's press... Oh no, wait, we hold down forward this time to go forward. Yeah, there's so much weight that it moves real slow. So I need to change the engine of that. But here's the cool thing. We can press 2 to lift it up. Look at that, amazing. And then 3 to lower it down. So it looks real cool, but it doesn't fire properly at the moment. And look at that. Can aim it right at you. Awesome stuff. So anyway, when we get out, we're now stuck here, and I have to jump into that one, and The other way to get out of it is to lift up the turret of the tank. So if you're watching this and thinking about rebuilding it yourself, then you're getting some tips right here. Make the overall thing a little bit taller than that, or actually better off would have been to have made this floor like a block or two lower. So these ones at the back are the ones that controls the wheels. Let's go all but seconds. And I want to show you another cool idea I had. So are those wheels rattling around at the top there, or did I turn that off? I turned it off, good. So, what you could do is get your bullet prepared up here, have that sitting in position. We're going to remove that temporarily, and then we're going along in our tank. Yes, it moved. Oh, wow, wow, whoa, whoa, easy, easy, easy. Yeah, we can really move in this thing now that the engine has been turned up. That's cool. That is an amazing looking tank right there, and I want to drive it off the ramp. Of course I do. But first of all, we're going to try and shoot something, and there's not really anything too much to aim at right here, so let's adjust it upwards. We know this is going to fail. Oh, I'm using the controls incorrectly here. There we go, that's the way. Then we're going to stop it about there. Nope. Yep, that's correctly stopped. We're going to aim over there, and then we're going to press 1 to fire. And that's how far it gets. Brilliant. So if I didn't have that thing in the way of it, it probably would have fallen down just in front of the tank itself, which I think means that the wheels are far more effective than what we've used here. Let's turn that off. Let's bring this back down. Oh dear, here we go. I'm really bad at learning controls for games, by the way. When I create my own contraption, I'm also bad at using it. There we go, now we're lowering it. I think they should be buttons instead of switches. And let's leave it up a little bit so I can potentially hop out of here. There we go, just enough gap for me to get outside of. This thing looks so damn cool right now. I like it, but it definitely needs some work to make it more functional. So what I was talking about was, I guess, the grip that it has. These things are just like slightly smaller than a block, so I guess it probably gets less grip on our projectile when it tries to send it out, as opposed to what we have over here. So I'm just reminding myself of how effective that is. I mean, it even sends us flying. Looks like I made a little bit of a mistake there then. Should have put wheels on the top here. But this also works if you want a wimpy gun. And all in all, I think it's been a pretty fantastic project. I'm definitely going to leave this world, like, you know, open for improvements. So I'm going to come back on here and maybe work on this during a live stream. So maybe there'll be another video from me about this. We also never finished the back of it as well. It definitely needs an entrance. Maybe we'll make something with hinges and a button so you can open a door and get inside. And there's definitely, you know, a whole bunch of improvements that we can make to this thing. So you may see like a 2.0 video coming soon, and that's a great reason to subscribe if you haven't done already, because we do lots of scrap mechanic videos here on the channel as well as Minecraft. Anyway, if you're interested in seeing some more, there are links on the screen, and check out the playlist as well for more scrap mechanic videos. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like. As always, thank you so much for the support. Do hope you've enjoyed this little contraption, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.